Mm. I think we're live. I think we're good to go. Exciting. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to In Conversation With. So today I am here with Tara Gabriel. Tara is from Inner Sage Hypnotherapy, and she's here talking to me about all things well-being today. We met. Where did we meet? Oh, Big Festoon, wasn't it, Tara?
Yes.
Yes. Danny Wallace's Big Festoon last month, and we were chatting. And we got onto the conversation of well-being and nature and how beneficial it is. And I thought, oh, I need to get her on my podcast. I need to get her chatting with me about how much this can help you guys in your business. So, Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here as well. As you know from when we had the conversation before, just anything to do with nature, well-being, feeling good is just my forte. I absolutely love that. So I'm really happy to talk to you about that today.
Oh, brilliant. So, Tara, tell everybody a little bit about you and your business so we can get a bit of a feel for you.
Yeah, I'm Tara and I'm an anxiety and confidence hypnotherapist at Inner Sage Hypnotherapy. And I do generally help adults, teens, children build their confidence, take back the control, find joy every day because I think that's something as we get into adulthood, we lose that joy, the joyful moments, appreciating the small things and finding fun and just feeling content because we end up feeling stressed and overwhelmed and often find ourselves in that spiral of negative thoughts. But I personally enjoy all things nature, creativity, going out for a walk. I'm that person who's like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. That's me. That's the kind of person I am. I quite enjoy like painting, baking, nice mindful activities as well. And I think music is something that plays into well-being as well. Like if you find different types of music, and for me, I listen to different types depending on my mood and what I need. So it's just tuning in, getting to know yourself, what you like, what you enjoy, what brings you joy, so that you can feel, happy, content, and not just about being happy and content, but so you can cope when life is throwing you those curveballs because it does. Life happens, doesn't it? Ups and downs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as business owners,
Yeah,
I know that it's not always plain sailing, and I know I've got to be self-motivated and driven
yeah,
and want to get up in the morning and do what needs to be done and want to grow. And I know how much having that time outside, having that time for me, having that time to do something separate, and appreciating those little moments of joy. I mean, everybody that knows me knows how I get so excited about the little things.
same, same. And at the moment, for me, one of the things that's bringing me joy everywhere I go is blossom. It is
Yes.
everywhere. And every time I see it, like the kids in the car, so I have two kids, a preteen and a teenager. So that definitely keeps my life very interesting. But everywhere we go, it's like, oh, look at that boy's blossom. Oh, look, more blossom. And they're like, okay, mom. And they kind of, but they get into it as well.
Yeah.
And when we appreciate the small things, it does bring us joy. And sometimes it can be seen like, oh, that's childish. Oh, why are you so excited over that little thing? But actually, when we can get excited about the small things, the things that are all around us that cannot be taken for granted, that's when we really can find that peace within ourselves. And we talk about nature and getting outside. You don't even have to be especially mobile to enjoy
No.
nature. And this is something that I realized myself even recently with a couple of issues that I'd had with my health and had limited me getting out and going for really long walks briefly. And there was a really lovely sunrise morning. And I thought, I really want to get out for a walk, but I can't. And I started to go down that negative spiral. And then I was like, hang on, let's think outside the box. What can I do instead? And so instead, I went to the doorstep. I had my cup of tea and made myself a nice peppermint tea. And I stood on the doorstep. The air was fresh and it was cold still, so it was like that frigid, lovely air. And I could see the sunrise. And I was like, see, I can still have that moment of peace just in a different way. And that's what I do. I help people to see a different way of getting that feeling of being able to cope, of finding ways through the challenging times. And it is often down to how we look at things, how we reframe things in our mind.
Yeah, totally. Because for me, this hasn't always been well, it kind of has been an always normal state, being excited about little things. And yeah, it has dipped when I've gone through bad times and things, and I think it does.
Yeah,
But I think appreciating those little things mustn't come easy to everybody.
yeah,
So how does somebody who wants to have a more peaceful, calm, positive, optimistic way of living with
yeah.
that can-do attitude, how do they find that? How do they start to find that?
Start small, like really small. When I see clients, sometimes the first couple of sessions, the first question I ask people in sessions is what's been good, to try and bring the focus to these little things. And over time, you kind of get used to and get in the habit, and it becomes so much easier. And suddenly, by the end of working with me, there's always this big list of what's been good at the beginning. But at the beginning, it can be quite difficult. It's like, oh well, not really much has been good. Just the smallest things, and it could be that you had a cup of tea in peace that morning. It could be, oh, the sun came out today and it made me, it made me feel nice. Because I think we can all agree, especially now we're in spring, when the sun starts to show, it's like, woohoo, you feel like a new, different person, or at least I do. I feel
Yeah,
like a new person when the sun's out. And then on those grey days, you kind of feel the loss of the sun. And it's just finding tiny things to appreciate through the day. And even for me, myself, my journey to becoming a hypnotherapist began with my own mental health struggles. And something negative would happen that would snowball and it could ruin my entire, not just my day, my week. It could ruin the whole month. Like I could be in that negative down spiral. And so it was starting to see the really small things and finding joy. And it's different for everyone. For me, it was nature. So nature is everywhere. You can live in the city, there'll still be a tree, there's still the sky above you with the clouds, the sun is still there, you'll still see rainbows and things. Yeah, nature is everywhere. So if you can tap into that, for me, that was really life changing. And when I was having the days where I felt down, look outside. Like I've got a favourite tree at the end of my street, and through the seasons, it's in its different states. And even on difficult days, that tree is always there. And so it's finding an anchor as well, something that anchors you.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think if nature's maybe not your thing, and we can bring this back to relating to business,
Yeah,
there's so many things that we can appreciate throughout our businesses. So I know I speak to a lot of people who tell me, "Oh, I've not got anything done today. I haven't done all my to-do list. I feel like I'm getting nowhere."
yeah,
And they're looking at all the negative things that they haven't done. So one thing that we were taught was to have a list of things that you have done. So you sit at the
yeah,
end of the day and you write that list of all the small things that you've achieved, because actually there's huge amounts that you will have done that you won't have even thought about. Because
yeah.
it's how it
And
is, isn't it?
exactly. And once you start on what you have done, like that's a really good way to start your what's been good. Because if you think about, okay, so I can't think of anything that's been good today. So what did you do? Well, I did this. Oh, and then that happened. Oh, I did this. Oh, and I saw that person. Oh, I had a lovely interaction. And again, bringing it to business, we have interactions with people. That is in our businesses. Even whether you were, I don't know, if you were a dog walker, you have interactions with dogs. If you have a client-based business, service-based business, you're servicing people with their needs. If you're selling products, you're meeting somebody's needs, like so you're having that interaction. So there are always ways to look for what's being good. And, again, it could be the very smallest thing. You could just have had, like when we went to the big festoon and we sat and had that lovely conversation out of nowhere. That was one of my highlights of the day, having a really authentic conversation with someone. And it's looking for those small moments. And it's almost the mundane things sometimes as well that you take for granted, like
Yeah.
appreciating the mundane, because every day if you're looking at it like, oh, it's just the same, or oh, nothing good's happening, actually if you start to look at the little things that are happening, then you'll start to have a greater appreciation for that. And when we find that appreciation, we naturally want to do more of that, so we end up
Yeah.
doing more anyway. So you can go from, oh, I've done nothing, to, oh, I did this, and then you start to feel that, that motivation and momentum builds.
Yeah, it's like doing one little action, and
Yeah.
the way I talk about it is like you do one action, and however you perceive that action will dedicate what you're going to do next. Dedicate's
Yeah.
the wrong word. Anyway, so you do the action, and you can either see a positive or negative result out of it. So I don't know, you do a piece of follow-up. So you send somebody a message and you don't get a reply. They're ghosting you, they're ignoring you. Might as
Yeah.
well not bother. Negative. So you don't do any more. Whereas you do the follow-up, they don't answer. Well, that's okay. Maybe they're busy. Maybe I'll follow up with somebody else. And if I follow up with another person, eventually somebody's going to talk to me. And actually, if I do this in the right way, I'm going to start conversations somewhere along the way. So I'm going to do more of it. And that's the positive way of
Yeah.
looking at it. But it's the same action. How do we start to change that pattern from that, oh no, nothing's going right, nobody's listening to me, everyone's ignoring me, to flipping it round? Is that the little things as well?
Yes, and for me, one of the things, and this is something I've adopted personally and that I've brought into like the therapy room, but I also use this very effectively with my kids as well. So it's so easy for us to get in that negative spiral of everything's going horribly, or oh, I did this bad, like just that negative spiral, that negative way of thinking. And asking yourself a question like, is that true? Is it kind? Are you being kind to yourself right now?
Yeah,
And is it necessary? Like, is this helping you? Is it helpful? So for me, is it true? You could say something like, if you made a mistake or you didn't do something or you messed up in your business or in personal life, and you might say, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? Well, actually, is that true? Like, are you stupid or did you just make a little oversight or a mistake? And the thing to know is everybody makes mistakes.
yeah,
Everybody, no one's perfect and perfection does not exist. So it's just asking ourselves those questions, is it true? Is it kind? Would you speak to your best friend like that? Would you speak to your clients like that? Would you speak to, family members, your children, like just would you speak to anybody else the way you just spoke to yourself? The answer is no. So we maybe need to give ourselves that compassion. Self-compassion is so, so
yeah,
important.
yeah,
I would argue that it does underpin how we show up. It
yeah,
underpins, it's one of those foundational blocks towards our overall well-being, our mental well-being. Because if we're not kind to ourselves, if we don't value ourselves, then why would we do anything,
yeah,
that benefits us, because you don't feel worth it. So being kind to ourselves, is it kind? And then, as I say, is it necessary? So is this helpful? Is this, whatever thoughts we're trapped in, this negative way we're thinking, is this actually helping us? Is it necessary to where we want to be? Because I think we know where we want to be. We know what we want to achieve, we know the goals. And sometimes the way to get there, we get a bit lost. And that's when we start to be negative to ourselves. And so just asking those questions can help to just reframe. It can be a bit of a reset, like, oh, you pull yourself up and you're like, hang on, that's making me feel really awful. And I can change it. And yes, it does feel uncomfortable or it's tricky at first, but the more you do it, and this is the thing with our brains, loves repetition.
yeah,
Whenever we're trying to change something, it's repetition is key. So the more you pull yourself up, with kindness, of course, not, oh,
Yeah.
I've done this again, with kindness always. And you can start to reframe and change the thoughts. You can start to, when you have that respect for yourself, that kindness towards yourself, you'll find it naturally flows, like the more positive mindset does naturally unfold from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so often we get caught up in this business world of processes and systems and strategies
Yeah,
and this is what you need to do to be successful and the to-do list and all the work and everything. Yet we don't prioritize that compassion to ourselves and looking after ourselves and those boundaries or um, letting ourselves have me time as
yeah,
such,
and
or just time to I don't know, decompress to help
exactly.
ourselves.
And when you're running a business, especially if you're doing it, if you are the business, if you are your business, you are doing everything marketing, you're doing the social media, you're doing the actual face to face with your client, the direct client work. You're doing, I mean, you've got all the accounting, everything, you're doing everything.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't look at somebody else and shame them or put them down, or you wouldn't start giving them a verbal dressing for sometimes feeling overwhelmed or struggling. And if they were struggling, you would probably tell them, maybe you just need to step back and just reassess and maybe have a rest. So we need to maybe, treat ourselves like our best friend,
yeah,
like you would your best friend. You would be kind. If you feel yourself getting to that really stressful point, actually, it can be beneficial to take a step back. Your business is not going to crumble. It's not going to cease to exist because you took a couple of days if you need that. Because at the end of the day, if you don't prioritize your well-being, you will start getting those little nudges and signs. If
yeah,
we ignore them, then it ends up catastrophic. Then it's a big problem. Whereas if we start to feel ourselves getting overwhelmed, if we start to feel ourselves going down that negative spiral, addressing it earlier on
yeah,
is, and I think in business as well, comparison is a big thing. I always, tell my clients when they talk about comparing themselves to others, what about you? What matters to you? Because who you're comparing yourself to, you're just looking at this bit that maybe they put on social media. But what about their actual life? Like their home life is different to your home life. Their end goals for life, not just in their
yeah,
business, but all around, could be different. So when we're comparing ourselves to others, you can't really do that because we don't know what other factors that they have. Maybe we have things that are different in our lives that we can't change, that they don't have. So when we compare ourselves, instead of beating ourselves up, I always try to change that perspective of what if you looked at that and thought, that's what's possible for me?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, instead of, oh, I haven't done this any, I haven't reached that. I'm so this, that, or the other. It's like, no, that could be possible for me, and use it as fuel rather than,
yeah.
stress, something to stress and pull yourself down with. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you're quite right, and again, that comes with that practice and starting with the little things, seeing things in that different way, will
yeah.
turn into losing the comparisonitis or it massively lessening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And one of the things, again, one of the concepts I talk about with clients is the three P's, and it's positive actions, positive interaction, actions, and positive thoughts. Yeah, positive actions, interactions, and thoughts. So we want to challenge our thoughts. Positive thoughts is not just about thinking, oh, the sun's shining and rainbows every day. It's not about that. It's about, sometimes challenging our thoughts when we find ourselves stuck in that negative loop. It is appreciating the small things. So checking in, at the end of the day, instead of thinking about all the things you didn't do, what went well today? Like what did go
yeah,
well? And it doesn't just have to be work, it can be work, personal. all things, just reflecting on all the good things that have happened. When it comes to interactions, we are very sociable. Even the introverts of us, I'm an introvert, hold hands up. But when you interact with the right people, it's so
Yes.
fulfilling, and we need that. Like, human beings are sociable creatures.
Yeah.
And so, what interactions are we having? And even if it's not with someone we know personally, maybe you see someone in a shop, the cashier, and they've got lovely nails. And do you keep that compliment to yourself or share it? They feel good. You feel good because you've made someone feel good. Interactions could be just so much as smiling at someone on the street. And then the positive actions, all the things that we do that make us feel good. So, for me, positive action might be getting to the bottom of the ironing pile. So I've not got that, so I've not got that hanging over me when I'm trying to do
Yeah.
work. It's like, okay, I'm not worrying about doing the ironing. Or it could be something pleasurable, like going for a lovely walk in the woods. The
Yeah.
positive actions can be things that we just love to do because they make us feel good, or things that maybe we don't really want to do, like I hate ironing, but when it's done, it will feel
Yeah.
good. Like, afterwards, there's no giant pile in the corner of the room staring at me every time I walk in. And so it's just
Yeah.
finding that balance and doing those positive actions, interactions, and thoughts so we can start to change our mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I absolutely loved talking to you when we were planning this episode
Yes.
about creativity. So I am a very creative person. I'm not arty. I don't mean like, drawing
Yeah.
and pottery and sewing and whatever. None of that. But I'm a creative thinker. And we were talking about this before this episode, and about how you can become naturally more creative,
Yes.
and it give a massive benefit to your business. Do you want to explain a little bit about what we were talking about? Can you remember what we were talking about?
Well, yeah, now you've said that, and I'm like, oh no, what were we talking about? With regards to creativity,
We were
um,
talking about slowing down, weren't we? And getting out and about and
yeah, so I think for me, certainly going out, whether it's going for a nice long walk or whether it's standing on the doorstep, when we give ourselves that space, that's when the ideas start to flow, because we're not, our mind isn't cluttered with, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Actually taking the time to be creative, to give yourself time to do the things you enjoy, you'll find, maybe you're just listening to music and doing something you enjoy, and you'll get an idea pop up in your head out of nowhere. Whereas if you put yourself in front of the laptop and you go, right, I'm going to think of what to do, then all of a sudden it's crickets,
yeah,
because there's that pressure. Whereas when we actually go out in nature, when we go out for a drive and we're listening to music, or whether, I mean, I do actually quite like creative things as well. So I quite like to paint, I like to garden, as well. And ideas often come thick and fast.
yeah,
When you take that time to do the relaxing things as well, to get creative, you'll find that. And you don't have to be painting like Picasso or whatever to be creative. And like you say, creative thinking, when we are doing the things that we love, whatever that is, it does open up the space for our mind to go into that state where it's coming up with those ideas, and it's often happening in the background. That's why you suddenly
yes,
go, oh, I've got an idea, because you didn't feel the idea cooking up. Your brain's just doing its thing. You're in the zone, you're doing whatever's enjoyable, and in the background, the brain is always working for you, for your goals. So those ideas will pop up. They just do, and that's why we
yeah.
get those little brain moments like, oh, I don't know where that idea came from. It came from you. It came from your mind.
Yeah, and I suppose that's why it's so important to be always training your brain to look for the positive things and to look for the
Yes.
helpful things, because your brain, from what you've just said, I've understood it as it's looking to help you with whatever you're trying to make it do. So if you
Yeah.
are looking at the negative things, it's trying to find the negative things for you.
Yeah. If you've ever woken up, and I've definitely been guilty of this, I've woken up and maybe I didn't get enough sleep, and so I'm already on the back foot. And then something really small happens, but it's not great. Like, I don't know, maybe the kids are bickering or something, and oh, their day's going to be horrible. So instantly I've told my brain, today is going to be awful. So as I go through that day, every tiny thing that happens that's negative, my brain flags up. See, your brain will give you the evidence. It will find the evidence for what you say. So if you make a statement, oh, today's going to be awful, you best believe your day will be awful because your brain is looking for the evidence to make that true. Whereas if you get into the habit of today's going to be a good day, there might be challenges, but I can overcome these challenges, you're going to see the good stuff. And when a challenge does happen, instead of being like, totally defeatist, I knew this was going to happen, everything's terrible. It's like, oh, this is really hard. Right. Then the creative brain starts to go, what can we do?
Yeah.
How can we get past this? How can we deal with it? We're much more able to cope with the challenges. And it really is what you feed your mind. And it's like, I've said before, I've used this analogy before. If you go shopping for a new car and you've been driving a blue car all this time, you're like, I think I might want a red car. You leave the showroom and suddenly you see red cars everywhere. And that's the same with your thoughts, whether that's negative or positive. What you put your attention on is what will start to be reflected back. That's what you're going to see more of. So that's why it's so important to start to, look at the little things, and appreciate the tiny things that happen as well as the big things.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Now, when we were chatting last week before about this episode of the podcast, you were talking about something that you do as part of your business, or going to be setting up. I can't remember whether you've done it or not. Soulful Sunday resets, which
Yes,
sounded really interesting.
yes. So Soulful Sunday Reset is very new. It's something that I started to do last year. Found myself getting back into that rut again, like being busy, juggling all the things. I wasn't finding time for me, which was stressing me out quite a lot. I was finding myself not sleeping well, in that negative spiral again. Something happened in the week. I was just dreading, I was looking forward to the weekend, then spending the weekend. Oh, it's Monday soon. Like, oh, get to Sunday and I thought, oh, it's Monday tomorrow. And I thought I've got to do something. And this is where Soulful Sunday Reset came about, because I know in my sessions, my one-to-one sessions with people, when you reflect on the good stuff, it sets you up. But more than that, going deeper, when we set a powerful intention of what the week ahead could be, so something to look forward to, like it ties into what we were just saying. When you envisage something positive, the mind starts to look for more positive. So when you set an intention and really connect to that intention, like why is that important to you and how will you actually feel if you do that amazing thing? And then the hypnotist, like relaxation, at the end, is to just help you to really get into that deep zone of genius, I guess, where the mind is just going, it's coming up with all the solutions without even thinking about it consciously. It's all the subconscious work. So Soulful Sunday Reset, I brought it to a small group who really enjoyed it. And some of the feedback I had was, I haven't slept like that in years. That's one of the comments I had. Really enjoying a chance to actually take stock of the good that's happened. Someone said that they didn't realize how many good things were happening for them. They were able to cope through the rest of the week. So when things did happen, they were like, nope, I'm calm, I'm in control of this, just changing the mindset, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So yes, that is something that happens every Sunday at 8 p.m. because that gives people time to, you've done all your jobs, you've done all your chores. It's super informal. Like we have people turn up in their jammers with a blanket on. Like I've got some special jammers for when it's winter, when it's the darker nights, and like get ready for bed and you're nice and comfortable. Super informal. And we just start by really checking in to how you feel. I think a lot of the time we know we're kind of feeling rubbish, but we don't really check in. How are we feeling in our mind, our body, our emotions, and just explore sort of why you're feeling that way. And do you want to feel more of this? Because it's not just about being in the negative space. maybe you come to the Soulful Sunday Reset and you feel really good. And so it's like, well, why do you feel really good? Then you can replicate that more. And then we do focus a little on what do you want to let go of. So sometimes, rubbish things happen through the week, and this is what causes us to be in that cycle of dread because we hold on to these negative things. Well, last week so and so happened, or someone at work said this, or someone did that, or
Yeah.
my car broke, or whatever it might be. Leave that. This is the opportunity to reflect on, okay, well, these things were not great this week. This is the line. It's staying in this
Yeah.
week. And then we look at all the joyful things that happened, and we can take those with us. Of course, you want to keep those with you. And then we set the intention for, okay, this week, what are we going to do? A positive action, interaction, or thought. That we set that intention, we connect to it, and then we do the lovely 30-minute guided relaxation at the end. And that's the bit that's like so relaxing and amazing. And I think that's when I asked everyone, like, what's your favorite bit? That was the bit that most people said they enjoyed that bit at the end. So yes, the Soulful Sunday Reset is a weekly session. You can come to try it out, just one session, have a go, see if you like it. Or you can subscribe to monthly and join us to keep on with that monthly. And I think and this is something I spoke about with a client just in the last couple of days. Our well-being is something that we need to be paying attention to all the time, not waiting. It's like with if you have a car, you never, you don't keep not topping up with petrol until you run out. You don't leave it till you're stranded in the middle of nowhere, like, oh no, I've no petrol. You keep filling up, you keep filling up, you keep filling up. And that's what we need to do with our well-being. Do the things that keep us topped up, that keep us in that frame of mind where we can keep going, and get to wherever it is our destination is, whatever it is we want to do, whether that's in business, thriving businesses, whether that's thriving home life, thriving relationships. It can be applied to any area of your life, but it is a
Yeah.
priority.
It is, and it should be more of a priority for more of us, without a
Yes.
doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on here. If anybody
Thank
wants to get in
you.
touch with you on socials or join the Soulful Sunday Reset, how do they get hold of you?
Yes, so I'm mostly on Instagram at Inner Sage Hypnotherapy. I also have Facebook as well. If you do join the Soulful Sunday Reset, there is a group as well, a lovely private community there that we're growing. And I think you said we can link. I can pop a link in as well,
Yes.
so you can get on my email list and find out more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always happy for anyone to drop me a message. I'm always happy to chat.
Yeah, we'll pop all the links in the little show notes and things so everyone can access them. But thank you so
Fabulous.
much for coming to speak with
Oh,
me.
thank you for having me. It's been so amazing talking all things nature and well-being. So yeah,
It
perfect.
has. It has. Thank you so much, Tara. We'll see you
Thank
later,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.